Kansas Wesleyan wrapped up a 3-game road swing last Saturday afternoon as they traveled to McPherson to take on the Bulldogs. Head coach Dave Dallas and company found out that victory number 7 would be far from easy, even though they had an early 10-0 lead. They found out that they would be in a battle late in the fourth quarter. That's where Gary Trione came into play. The junior from Mulvane provided late-game heroics with a 22-yard field goal with just seconds remaining, leading the Coyotes to a 20-17 victory and prompting his teammates to carry him off the field. And I wasn't there to see it as I bring you in now, head coach Dave Dallas of the Coyotes, but that had to be quite a picture, seeing Gary carried off by his teammates. You don't see that very much.
You know, Gary, number one, he had it was a muddy week last week. He just had a struggle just all week long kicking, and it was a struggle for him. And then he missed a field goal. Middle of the way through the fourth quarter there, and then he just went back by himself, stood there, and got himself recomposed. And what was funny, he came off the field and he went on the field to kick the field goal, and then they called a timeout to ice him, and he came off and looks at me and goes, "They're scared of me, coach. They're scared of me." I said, "Just get her done, Gary. Just get her done." And just walked off and went back to the sideline. I said, "We're faking it, fellas." They'll look at me, what? So it was fun to see that for him. I was happy for him because he had such a struggle, and I think it shows a little bit about him as his character and different things like that. His competitive spirit to be able to regroup and recompose himself to kick that field goal.
Oh yeah, it has to be hard to come across a guy like that can step up and get into a big pressure-packed situation, especially after he missed that field goal early in the game.
Right.
A lot of kickers are head cases. I used to kick, and I was a head case a few games, so I understand that.
Yeah, and they're so fragile. I mean, you got to. I learned just to I don't ever say anything to them. They miss it. I don't ever, unless he missed that game winner, and I would put my hands around his neck. But no, there was really not the less pressure on him if we would have been one down or something like that to kick it to win it. Then we're tied. We could have went into overtime. Nothing lost. But I was glad to see him get it through the uprights because I wanted to finish it right there, not go into overtime. There's no question about that.
And I'll get to Daryl Grames in a moment because he had a sensational game once again. But something that people might know about Trione is that getting into the stats a little bit on a national basis, he's second in the nation in field goals made per game. So he's been just kicking them and kicking them and kicking them,
right.
and it's been adding up. And
he's had plenty of opportunities to kick them, and I don't know if that's good or bad because we stalled out in the red zone too many times, and we're not turning those into touchdowns, and we need to do a better job with that.
All right, let's look back at this game, and McPherson had some early success as they drove down the field, but John Lewis would step in front of a Patrick Lewis pass and take it back 60 yards on a return and set you up in great field position. So what a change of events early for you.
Yeah, it was, and we drove the ball down the field the first series, and I think we had a 10 or 12 play drive and stalled out, and it was disappointing. And then we had a roughing the kicker call that was, I don't think it was probably roughing the kicker, but and then I got a penalty for being on the field, and so all of a sudden they're 30 yards better than what they were, and they're at the 50 going in, and thank goodness John stepped in front of that. It made me feel a heck of a lot better.
And that can totally change the complexion of a game. I was watching a little bit of I don't know if you saw it, the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game this past Sunday in the NFL. Cincinnati has a call reversed, a touchdown reversed. They have a touchdown taken off the board. Who knows how that game would have ended up? Who knows how this game would have ended up if McPherson would have gotten to the end zone? You just don't know. So it was just a huge break for your team.
It was a real big break. And, John, this guy was, a 6'5" guy playing over John who's 5'9", and he went up, and we put pressure on the quarterback, and he threw a duck up there. We had a guy come off right in his face. And, the unfortunate thing is 90% of the time the quarterback makes a tackle on an interception. Well, we didn't get the quarterback blocked after he threw the pick. Our D linemen know better than that. We work on that every day in practice. We didn't get him blocked, and lo and behold, he makes the tackle for John. John would have went in for the touchdown if not.
Lewis, one of those Florida boys out of Delray. He's a senior for you, and I believe this is the first time we've really talked about him. Tell me a little bit more about John.
Yeah, John played at West Hills Community College in California, and John's just an outstanding young man. He's worked real hard to get to where he's at. He developed the relationship we have a great relationship with the coaching staff with him, he's just an outstanding kid, and he's worked very hard and probably been a real unsung hero a lot this year because he hadn't been picked on a whole lot, and he made a great play, and he's made some good plays throughout the year.
So maybe he won't be picked on again after that.
Let's hope not.
And you did what a good team's supposed to do. You made them pay. You get the turnover, take it back down the field, then you put together a nice little drive, 6-play, 32-yard drive. Grames puts it across. Daryl Grames puts it across from 1 yard out. You go up 7-zip, 5:54 mark of the first.
Yeah, and we executed real well and took some time off the clock and did those type of things, and we're supposed to. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to take advantage of those opportunities.
And I spoke of earlier, as you jumped up 10-0 in the game early, and you did, because Trione came right back, got a 27-yarder, his first field goal of the game, with just 9 seconds left in the quarter. That made it 10-0 going into the second. Yeah,
and we executed again offensively real well, and had a nice long drive there and kicked the field goal, and Gary got it through, and he kicked that into the wind as well, so that was a pretty good kick.
Seemed like McPherson would always have an answer for you, and they did in the second quarter. Lewis would connect with Troy McBroom, a 58-yard touchdown pass, and that brought the Bulldogs back to within 3, 10-7.
Yeah, we actually flushed him out of the pocket, and it was just a scramble pass, and the receiver broke off and caught a ball, and we had a guy slip, and then they slipped and ran into each other and couldn't make the tackle, and he ran it in for the touchdown. It was really kind of a broken play, to be honest with you, and they converted it. But actually, both their touchdowns they scored were off of broken plays.
Really? And that tells us a little bit about the quarterback and his talent of being able to make something out of possibly nothing. Well, it's 10-7 going into halftime. You are in front. You're on the road. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking we got to maintain the line of scrimmage. We weren't up front. We weren't taking charge in the line of scrimmage, particularly offensive line wise and defensive line wise. We weren't taking charge of that, and that's the thing. I said, hey, we got to establish things up front. Both the passing game and the running game, and we got to establish things up front and stop the run. So those are things what I was thinking. We got to get more physical the second half.
In the third quarter, you got the ball after you stopped McPherson on downs. You put together a drive of nearly 8 minutes, 17 plays, 59 yards. You get all the way down to the Bulldog 3. Then Junior Alexis, your quarterback, gets sacked, a 12-yard loss. You have to end up settling for a field goal attempt. And Trione, that's the one we were talking about, he missed on it.
Right.
So, real frustrating for the kids and yourself, I'm sure.
Yeah, real
put
frustrating
together.
at that. With great drive down there, and it was just a missed play call. Unfortunately, Junior just didn't read something off our signal, and it was just a missed play call. And he went one way, and everybody else went the other way, and he slipped and tried to make something happen. And it's a chip shot for Gary. He should have made that, and he knows that, which would have put us up by 10, I think, at that point in time.
Well, then we go on to the fourth quarter, and that's when things get fun. I'm sure the fans really enjoyed that fourth quarter. Maybe not. I don't know. It had to be stressful for everybody, including you. I know.
I don't get stressed.
Okay, you're awesome. You don't get stressed. Oh boy. Okay, Bryson Gray connected on a long field goal, a 45-yarder for McPherson. That tied up the game 10-10 with just a little under 7 minutes to go.
Yeah, and it was the ugliest field goal I think I've ever seen in my life. It got through though, but he got it off, and it got through the uprights and 10-10, and then we were able to answer the bell right back. Though.
Yeah, you did. 88 plays, 80 yards, and the big play in the drive was Junior Alexis. He connected with Marcus Lowe, a 46-yard touchdown pass.
And it was probably the best ball Junior's thrown all year long, and Marcus just ran underneath it, and boom, he was in the end zone. And it was really good to see those two connect. And Junior, he threw for 43 yards for the game, and he had a good game, good game. When we asked him to make plays, he made some great plays and great throws.
So much has been talked about with Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison breaking the NFL record for tandems. Well, this is a tandem I've been seeing more and more. Are those two developing a little bit of a bond?
Yeah, we're starting to develop our bond in our old passing game. I think it's gonna come out of its shell, and we're getting more and more confident in each week.
Well, with that touchdown pass from Junior Alexis to Marcus Lowe, it made it 17-10 Coyotes, which is 2:40 to play in the game. But McPherson would have an answer, a 68-yard touchdown pass answer from Lewis to Dwight Hale, tying up the game 17-17, with just a little over 2.5 minutes left in the game.
And there again, it was another broken play. We flushed him out of the pocket. One of our DBs came off and thought he was going to run it, and he darted it up over the DB's head, and the guy broke down in the end zone and scored. So that was disappointing.
Was it not necessarily your kids doing anything assignment-wise wrong, but just it's hard to stick with the receiver when the play?
You got to learn to do that, and we'll have a couple drills for that
Okay.
this week. So we got to do a better job with
I'm
that.
trying to help him out a little bit. I guess I'm trying to not get him screamed at this week in practice. All right, you get the ball back with 2:22 to go. Maybe some people thought overtime. Well, your team thought otherwise. They drove down the field with the running game and with the passing game. First, a 28-yard pass from Junior to Bollinger. Bollinger. And what's Bollinger's first name? Ernest. Didn't get a chance to get that written down. 29-yard run then by Grames, and he eventually took it down to the 5-yard line 3 plays later. Just seconds remaining, Trione steps up and gets her done.
And boots the field goal. You know, actually, when we threw the 29-yard pass to Ernest, we were 3rd and 11, and I think they thought we were playing for overtime all the time, and we really weren't. We were playing for first downs, to be honest with you. And I didn't think they expected us to run the ball. They did us a favor by calling a timeout. We had all 3 timeouts left, so we were able to connect. And there was another great throw when we had to make a throw. Junior threw a great ball to Ernest, and Ernest took it up the field, and I was glad to see that. I think you're going to see more and more good things out of him the next couple weeks.
Yeah, Bollinger out of California, Southwestern Junior College, a junior, 6'5", great size.
Yeah, he does.
200 pounds.
Yeah, when he puts it all together, he's going to be something special. He hasn't connected all year long, and he's starting to get in the feel of things a little bit, and you know, he struggled with that up to this point in time.
Did confidence help you get this victory? Is this a win you maybe would you have maybe got this win back in week 2? I mean, it seems like you're finding ways to win every single week.
Well, I think we believe in each other, and we believe in the family atmosphere that we have as a football team, and I think that helps. You know, hey, I think there's that sense of trust offensively, defensively, special teams, and I think that's huge.
Right now you're sitting in 2nd place. You have to like where you're – well, I'm sure you'd want to be in 1st place, but – after week 1 losing to Tabor, you battled back and you're right there in 2nd place, and anything can happen here with still some games remaining in the schedule.
Well, you know, we just hope that we can just keep winning. We can only control ourselves, and if we keep that in perspective and try to get better as a team each week, that's the most important thing we can do.
What do you think about the rest of the league so far, how everything's shaking out?
You know, it's just kind of well, like us. I think we control our own destiny and where we end up and those things. And you know, if Tabor were to stub their toe and get a loss, it'd be, you know, a co-championship situation with us both. But you know, they're playing extremely good football right now, and somebody's going to have to step up and beat them.
Well, yeah, Bethel this week. It'll be a home game for you. They'll be taking on Mike Moore. Yes, thank goodness. At least McPherson wasn't Texas, but still, it's nice to be home back to Salina Stadium in front of your own home fans and hopefully a larger crowd that travels out to see you. We'll be taking on Mike Moore and his Bethel Threshers. This team is 1-6, and when I first glanced at their record, I thought, well, maybe the kids can go out and have a lot of success against this team and maybe get a rolling type victory and take them to the woodshed, as they like to say. But this Thresher team is very deceiving. A lot of their games, I believe they've had leads in all but 2 of their games this year. As I go down the list, they started out the year, they lost 43-37 to Southwestern. They lost at McPherson 33-24. Then they got roughed up bad at Tabor 60-10. Lost to Sterling 49-40. Sterling's a good team, so that's a quality game for them. Then they picked up their only win as they played Southwestern Assemblies of God. 42-14 was that margin of victory for them. They led Friends 27-0 after the first quarter. They wouldn't score the rest of the game and ended up losing that contest 38-27. And then last week they lost 10-3 to St. Mary's. So this team has been able to play well, but just not win games.
They just don't have that confidence and edge to put it and finish it up. And it's important for us to get out of the gate and get on top of them early in the ball game. And they have some very talented. The Garibaldi kid's an all-conference receiver. The Barron kid speaks for himself. He's 5th in the nation in rushing. So it ought to be an interesting contest. I mean, they're an awful good football team for being 1-5 right now. And our kids know that. They understand that. And they're able to see the talent there. And that's been a plus.
Is it hard sometimes to sell kids on that? Say, don't look at the record. And, is it hard sometimes?
Well, I think it's hard when you say that, but till they are able to sit down and watch video and say, hey, this back is pretty good, and they understand that. I don't think we take anybody for granted, and I think they understand that and they appreciate that, and they respect their opponent no matter who we're playing.
Coach Moore for Bethel thought that one thing that may be hurting him a little bit is that he's relying a lot on young kids, has 60 players that are freshmen or sophomores on his roster, so he thought that may be part of the problem. Maybe that's going along with the confidence thing where a senior or junior might be able to get the team over the hump. And looking at their quarterback position, they'll be bringing in a freshman that I know of right now that should be starting, Brett Clow. But Rolando Garcia had been playing. Do you know what the status is?
I don't know what the situation is there, why they pulled Rolando. None of their newspaper clippings or anything to say about him getting hurt or anything of that nature. I don't know if they made a change there or what. Or last week they were playing on a muddy track and maybe didn't feel comfortable with him playing there. I'm not certain what the scenario is there. We're going to plan for him being back there, and if there's a freshman back there, so be it.
Garcia has great size, 6'3", 235, out of Miami, Florida, has thrown for over 800 passing yards, 7 touchdowns. So, yeah, it's a little confusing why they stuck in the freshman. Freshman only has a little over 200 yards passing this season. He had 94 against St. Mary's last week. But the kid that you mentioned, and the one that I'm sure your defense is going to be worried about, is Phillip Barron, 5th in the nation in rushing, 1,072 yards on the year. He's averaging a little over 150 yards a game. He's gone over 200 yards twice, including a high of 283 against McPherson with 4 touchdowns in that game. His low was 54 yards against Southwestern Assemblies of God, but he still had 3 touchdowns in the game. So the guy's an impact player.
He is a great player. I mean, I'm not joking. He's a great player. He's got some quick to him, and they put him in good situations to get his yards. And the Garibaldi kid, their receiver, is a fine player and is a fine return guy as well.
Yeah, and Barron, one more thing about him, he is out of San Antonio, 5'9", 205 pounds. And another guy, you mentioned the receiver, but another kid making an impact is Chad Hirschberger. I remember him very well out of Heston. He's 4th in the nation in returning kicks, 33.4 yards. Returns. So your special teams is going to have to be on point.
There's no question about that. So they do some things very well. They've got some guys that lead the nation in categories, or in the top 10 in the nation in categories that we need to be able to counterpunch them with.
Well, let's talk about your running back. Sure, Phillip Barron is number 5 in the nation, but your running back is number 1. What a game he had as we shift back and talk about the contest a little bit against McPherson. Darrell Graham's 47 carries, 233 yards in the game, and 1 touchdown, your first touchdown of the contest. But, man, you just really hooked up the plow to this guy and just said, go, go.
He's our guy, and we had 28 carries for 100, and he had 77 yards at halftime, so whatever that calculates out to. He had 160 on 28 carries the second half. So he had a great ball game, and he deserves to be where he's at, number 1 in the nation, and he's a good back, and he's physical, and he just ran over a couple linemen, D linemen, and a defensive back in that last drive, and just took charge of it.
Maybe his most impressive stat, you've already told me this guy gets stronger as the game wears on. He had 108 yards in the 4th quarter on 19 carries.
Pretty good day's work, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a long day's work.
That last drive, we started out with 2 minutes and 22 seconds left, and I don't know how many plays it was, but we only threw the ball 1 time in that last drive.
On the season, if you're curious, Graham's now with almost 1,200 yards, 1,192 yards with 8 scores, good for 170 yards per game average.
It's pretty good work there.
What does that do for your program to have a guy like that? How much recognition is that bringing you? It's gotta help your program.
Oh, it does. It helps tremendously, and the recruitment aspect of things, and just the promotional aspect of things within our program. I mean, that bears a lot. And the key thing is that it's he's number 1 in the nation, but he's also a great student. He's a 3.7 student. I mean, he's a great young man on top of it, and then that's what our football team's made up of.
Well, kids can be looking, and they might not even be looking for Kansas Wesleyan things, but they can be looking on the internet and see Darryl Grain's Kansas Wesleyan #1 in rushing, and that's going to start getting in people's conscience, getting in people's minds, and that should just be positives, positives, positives down the line for you.
There's no question about that. That's a big plus.
47 carries in the game. That had to be a season high. I don't have all of his official stats in front of me right now, but season high for Darryl?
Yeah. He's had 3 200-yard games in a row.
That's amazing, amazing. Where does that stack up against some of the backs you've had before?
He's on track right now to break the single-season rushing record at Kansas Wesleyan, which is right at 1,600 yards.
Where would that put him in the KCAC frame of things?
I have no clue.
I'm putting you on the spot. That's why we need some help.
We need the toll man here.
Yeah, we need Tully to help us out with that. So yeah, Bethel this Saturday afternoon in Salina Stadium, 1:30. And as always, as I've been telling you, if you're not able to make it to the game, you can pick it up on the radio. Classic Hits 104.9. Dave Riggert, Mike McKenna with the call. You'll have that game against Bethel. You'll wrap up the season then with Sterling and Bethany. And I'm real excited. If you make it past Bethel, the Threshers, you got Sterling on the horizon, and they're right now tied in second place with you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to playing Bethel this week. Get my hint?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Don't look ahead. Don't look ahead.
No, we never do, and the guys know that. They know that with me that, hey, we got Bethel, and that's all we're worried about. They're a good, solid football team. We got to worry about them. We'll take care of whoever we got to take care of next week.
So it is the Threshers, as I said, this Saturday afternoon in Salina Stadium.
Not at Salina Stadium, at Glen Martin Stadium.
Glen Martin Stadium.
Okay, Salina Stadium.
There's other.
We're not gonna play it on the turf over there.
There's other games going on in the.
Maybe someday.
Yeah. There's other games going on Fridays, not Saturdays. There with Salina Central and Salina South. And one thing I was reading about Coach Moore is he said he'd like to see his program get built up, and he mentioned that there were so many quality high schools around the area. He said there's Salina South there's Salina Central there. And I was thinking, wait, these kids should be staying here in town. But you think of that? He said he wants to add more Kansas kids to the roster. Is that ever a goal with you?
Oh, yeah. You always want to do that. I mean, I think we all work towards that. And I don't know where he's going with that, but I don't know that he'll come in our territory and get too many players out of here. He has one South kid that's playing for him now.
Have you ever been a little bit disappointed that you haven't been able to pull maybe more Sacred Heart, Salina South, Salina Central kids?
No, we've got some kids. I mean, we've gotten our share of kids through there. I mean, but a lot of kids, realistically, they want to leave home, and that's understandable as well.
And even some of the area schools, because I know covering the Abilene Cowboys that Ethan McDonald has got some interest. He is their quarterback.
He's a good player. He's on our radar, I can tell you that.
Yeah,
right now.
and he's asked me about your school. So, I mean, I'm sure you'd even like to pull out. You got Minneapolis in the area, Abilene, Chapman now having a good year. So there's so many good area schools out there.
I mean, there's some good kids around the area this year. I think there's probably more KCAC kids in the area. The Schropp kid from Southeast Saline's an awful good quarterback. I mean, there's some good football players. Now,
looking one last time at this game with Bethel this week at Martin Stadium.
Yeah.
What is your history with the Threshers?
We've been fortunate enough to play them real well. I think we've lost, since we've been here, we lost one game to them. That was in 2000. Was a 2-point mud game. We lost to them here at Martin Stadium. So we've had pretty good success against them, and hopefully that'll continue next week.
Well, Coach, I don't know. You probably don't want to prognosticate about this game, but what do you think? What's your prediction? What are going to be keys for you in this contest as we wrap things up here?
We can't turn the ball over. We need to play great special teams. I think that's the number one thing. And we got to nil and void their running game. If we can continue to hold it, we're giving up about 95, 96 yards rushing per game. If we can keep them there and not give up big plays on the defensive end of the football game, we shouldn't have any trouble, because I think we'll execute our running game real well, and I think we'll be able to throw the ball successfully on them. So I think if we can do those things and be pretty fundamentally sound, I think we'll come out with a win. But we've got to get better fundamentally up to this point.
Your team's nationally ranked. Have they continued to climb up the poll? Have you seen the new poll and where you stand right now?
Yeah, the poll just came out this afternoon. We're 19th in the nation.
Wow, 19th in the nation. And have you heard anything yet on the KCAC Players of the Week with offense, special teams?
Gary Trioni was Special Team Player of the Week, and
third time this year.
Yeah, but the Butler kid from Tabor had a better game than Darryl did. He had 40 carries for 255. Wow. So he's a pretty good player as well.
So turn out to Martin Stadium this Saturday afternoon at 1:30 and come watch the 19th team in the land. Yes, the Kansas Wesleyan Coyotes come out and support the kids and Dave Dallas. They've been doing extremely well, and they'll put on a great show, I'm sure, as they take on Bethel. Coach, thanks as always.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
I'm Tret Sanchez. Thanks for tuning in to the Coyotes Sports Den.